You absolutely need this in your golf swing. Today you're going to learn how to hit it higher, further, with more consistent contact, all with using just one move. Let's get started. All right, so I hit a shot with no wrist hinge that went 169. Now I hit a shot with a wrist hinge and you see it goes over 200 yards now. So this is a very, very powerful movement, okay? But it's also going to make your contact much better, okay? Welcome back, shot benders. Today I want to put one of the most important pieces into your golf swing. It's a move that's simple in theory, but definitely needs to be done properly, okay? It's a move that's one of the biggest distance contributors in the golf swing. It's going to help you launch the ball nice and high, and it's also going to make your contact more solid and consistent. And that move is wrist hinge. So wrist hinge adds a lot of vertical force to your golf swing. I refer to it as the hammer move. So if you had a hammer, you wouldn't hammer with a flat wrist, you would bend your wrist as you hammer, right? So we're essentially turning the golf club into a hammer. And that's going to add a lot of force to your swing. It's going to help you launch the ball and have better contact. So wrist hinge is simple in theory, but there's definitely a couple of ways that people commonly mess this up, and I see it a lot in my lessons, okay? Especially if you're learning it for the first time. So what wrist hinge is a vertical movement of the wrists, okay? Ideally, we would keep our arms very straight as we hinge, okay? So first I'm going to show you how to do this properly, okay? But then I'm going to show you a couple of ways that people most commonly mess this up. All right, so a lot of people think they're doing the hinge properly, but they're really not doing it properly at all. And just make sure you stick around to the end of the video to make sure that you're not doing it incorrectly, okay? It's really easy to mess it up. So let's talk about how to do it properly first, okay? So to put it simply, what I'd like you to do is to turn the hips and shoulders as you hinge, okay? Now, here's a bonus tip for you. A lot of you take the club back just using the arms, the hands, right? Now, what you're going to start to see is bending in the elbows, the wrist. Now we're in trouble here, okay? So that's the first way that people can mess this up. What I'd like you to do is just turn the hips and shoulders, right? So if we're turning the hips and shoulders, right, not using my hands at all, you'll see the hand path takes care of itself almost, right? So I'm not pulling the club back with my hands and arms. I'm turning my hips and shoulders, and the club is staying on plane. So if the club is staying on plane, all you have to do is turn and hinge as you do that, okay? Now you're starting to see the vertical force here, that L shape that you see with the arm and the club shaft there. So essentially what we want to do is have a one-piece takeaway, okay? So we want to turn the hips and shoulders as we hinge, okay? So I'm going to hit two shots here for you. The first shot is going to not have wrist hinge. And you'll see it's just not quite as effective as when I hinge. So there goes a shot 169. Now let's see how far it goes when I hinge my wrist. So if this video is helping you, tap that like button. And if you want to continue to get better at golf, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of cool videos coming up for you. All right, so I hit a shot with no wrist hinge that went 169. Now I hit a shot with a wrist hinge and you see it goes over 200 yards now. So this is a very, very powerful movement, okay? But it's also going to make your contact much better, okay? So if you're not hinging, what you'll tend to do is hit the ground a lot. If you hinge a little bit, now you can shallow out that club just a little bit as well, okay? So your contact's gonna get better. You can see that second shot launched much higher and it goes much further. Something worth noting is as you hinge, that extends that left wrist, that lead wrist. So what actually happens is the face is square and you extend that wrist a little bit, it will open up the face a little bit. So you may hit some fades here and there, but there's moves we can counteract to not only hit it straighter, but also to hit it further. So make sure you stay tuned to upcoming videos because I'll definitely cover that as well. Now let's cover a couple of the most common mistakes that I see, okay? So the first thing would be the arms bending too much, okay? So what happens is as people start to take the club back, they feel like they're hinging, but really what's happening is they're bending the elbow, okay? When the elbow starts to bend, what I tend to see in the downswing is as an attempt to straighten out that arm, they actually start casting the club. So we lose all these angles way too soon. We'll hit the ground, not hit it very far, contact's just gone, okay? So we wanna make sure those arms are staying straight. A good way to check is to stop at position 3 where the arms parallel to the ground, okay? And you want to make sure the arms are relatively straight, but that club is as hinged as possible. I'm a big proponent of practicing in front of a mirror or just recording your golf swing and checking to make sure that you're doing these pieces right, okay? Because far too often I see people think that they're hinging when really they're just bending their elbows or wrist there improperly, okay? So we want to keep those arms straight, stop at when the club's parallel to the ground, make sure the arms are straight with a lot of wrist hinge. So like I said, it's pretty common where people think they're taking the club back, keeping the arms straight or bending the wrist, but they're actually just bending the elbows there, okay? And a lot of times I see this when we're not quite turning our hips and shoulders enough. So if I'm turning my hips and shoulders, now it's really easy to keep that arm straight. So if you're here shaking, usually you're just using your arms to take it back, turn those hips and shoulders, and get that wrist up, okay? Getting that club more vertical. All right, so let's talk about the second most common mistake, which you're probably gonna do yourself, okay? And that's going to be bending the wrist backwards instead of hinging, okay? So people know that the golf swing is on a certain plane here, right? But the club is working in 3D, not 2D like we're used to seeing on TV, okay? So what that means is our hands may be working in and behind us, but the club head is actually working up, okay? But what people tend to do is, because the hands are working back, they tend to let the club work too far back. Now you can see you're off plane. And if you were to do this, what you're gonna see are low hooks, okay? So if you're hitting those low hooks, just know you're bending backwards, okay? We don't wanna bend backwards, we wanna bend vertically, okay? So, what you wanna do is turn the hips and shoulders, bringing the hands inward. The club's gonna feel vertical, right? So it's gonna feel like that club head is way outside of your hands. But as you continue to turn your hips and shoulders, that club head will get behind you and start to get more on the plane that you're used to seeing there, okay? So turn the hips and shoulders, hinge the club, and go from there. Okay. So comment down below if this is brand new to you, or if you have any questions about wrist hinge, or if you tried it and it's working for you. So you've probably seen on TV a lot of pros practicing this move where the hands are coming in, but we're hinging. Most notably, as of late, Tony Finau. Tiger was teaching Charlie Woods, his son, how to do this move. So essentially, we're bringing the hands in, the club is coming vertical as we continue to turn. And what you'll see, ball goes high, far, and launches really well. So if this video helped you, definitely tap that like button. Subscribe if you want to continue getting better at golf. And if you're working on this and it's going a little bit to the right, that's totally normal. Just make sure you stay tuned to some upcoming videos. I'm definitely going to address that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you at the next video.